Hello and welcome to Decibel Jezebel, and I'm going to try and do just a brief technical vlog on a lot of questions I get asked, and this will be to try and save me a lot of time answering them all. Now, one of the first questions I get asked is what programs I use to make the music, and in particular the Solfeggio. Well, I use Cubase mainly for sequencing, and I have a lot of analog gear and some synthesizers and some digital synthesizers. And I also use SoundForge in order to edit, and that's where I mainly tune things. And one advantage that SoundForge has is, well, a couple of advantages, is that it has a really good tone generator, so if you want to just produce pure sine waves, but also for tuning Solfeggio tones, it has a tuning that doesn't just go to cents, because you have hertz and cents, and in between two conventional notes, in the conventional scale, of course, there's 100 cents, but it also has points of the cents. So, like for instance, I use another program called Atmospheres, which is good for some ambient stuff, and you can offset the tuning in that, but it only goes to the cents. And a lot of the actual real calculations for offsetting the tunings for the Solfeggio notes, to really get it 100% accurate, you need a point of a cent. For instance, like to offset, the closest C to the C of 528 hertz, even though it's 4.7 hertz difference, the cents offset in tuning that is 15.1 cents up. And all of the Solfeggio notes have a different tuning. Now, there's two ways you can approach doing Solfeggio frequency recordings. And one of the most common that people use, and I started with this and I've still done a couple of sort of tracks like that, is that you can record in the conventional scale and then offset that tuning to one conventional Solfeggio frequency to make it compatible with that. Most of my tracks are in the full Solfeggio scale, and that means you've got 12 notes, and that there's no octaves, so you basically have just 12 notes or 12 pitches to work with. Of course, if you're working with additional sounds, not just sine waves, you're going to get a lot of broad, rich textures. So in tuning them, it's very important that you have a good ear to get the fundamental undercurrent frequency, because it can have a few broad harmonics. So yeah, basically you're going to have to make 12 individual tunings for each note. Now, and something that will help you will be you get something like this, and I'll put the basic notes, and that is a MIDI note to hertz conversion chart. So that way, for starters, you know the actual hertz of the closest note that you're working with, and then of course you can figure out the hertz difference and the cents difference between the two notes. Now remember, there is 100 cents between each conventional note in the even temperament scale, which is the common music scale that we work with. So, a good way to work out your tunings, and this is what I've done, is that you work out the difference between, say, the closest note below the Solfeggio frequency that you're working with, and that Solfeggio frequency, and the closest note above. But you start with the two above, and then you divide that difference by 100, and then you work out the difference between the bottom closest note and the Solfeggio frequency, and then you divide what's the remainder of those two up, and when you divide that by 100, then you work out, you know, it's actually really complicated. I have a chart, and this is the problem with me actually trying to verbalize this. So anyway, you get the basic drift. And you can work it out just by understanding that basic thing. So another thing people have to start realising is that I can't answer every email and private message, and some days I get a massive amount, and sometimes I'll answer messages immediately. It'll often depend on just the mood I'm in at the moment, and so please, if you do send me a private message and I don't reply, give me some grace to understand that I spend a lot of time in my studio, hours and hours, and I also have a life outside of YouTube, and my subscription rate, and thank you everyone for being interested, is increasing massively by the week. So I get a lot of messages, like there have been days that I've had a dozen messages, and I've had people send me second messages several times asking why I haven't. And I've also got a business that I'm trying to run, and so yeah. And I do try my best to answer a lot of questions, and in particular when the video is new. So that's probably going to be the most likely time. But coming up sometime, hopefully in the next year, which is not too far away now, I will be doing a webinar on my music. So I'll closer to that, I'll let you know, and you might want to join me for that and ask some questions. But in the meantime, enjoy, continue to enjoy my work, and thank you everybody for all your support, and and I'll even thank those people who want to test my patience by calling me a demon. I send you my love regardless.